Hello, I'm Michael Delamonica, and we're continuing our focus series, where today we are focusing on the 2nd District, United States Congress, Massachusetts. I have as my guest the challenger, Tracy Lovvorn, and in another segment, we will be featuring the incumbent, Congressman James McGovern. Let's get right to the questions. Tracy, first of all, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Michael.
And what is the top priority that you see for the district that you want to advocate for if you're elected for this coming term?
You know, the biggest priority I think anybody can do in Congress right now is just take a breath. Literally take a breath and actually get to work. You know, we have a place down there in DC right now that is just gridlock, and it has been gridlock for years. This isn't new. This isn't new in the last 2 years of this administration. It has been a place of partisan politics where nothing is happening. And right now, you know, we have infrastructure concerns throughout the entire district. We have an opioid epidemic throughout the entire district. And we actually have growing poverty rates, not just in the city of Worcester, but, you know, Greenfield had a tent city this summer. So we have some real issues here at home that we need to work on. So really just focusing on the district and actually getting to work for us.
Please go back for the last term or last couple of terms of Representative McGovern's tenure. Please cite one area in which you approve of his performance or something that he's done that you approve of, and one area in which you disapprove.
Oh my goodness. You know what Congressman McGovern has done to increase awareness for the hungry? You know, he is a tremendous advocate for raising awareness. You know, he pushes so hard for, there's no reason why anybody should be hungry, not just here in the United States, but anybody around the world. And I think that is tremendously amazing, the work that he's done towards that. And that's something that we should all aspire to do.
And one area where you disapprove, primary area you disapprove, I'm sure there's several, but
you know, the primary thing that I disapprove of with our current congressman is he represents himself. And he makes no bones about that. You know, you could read in Wikipedia about his history, and he is a very strong, progressive, liberal feeling person, and that's wonderful. But when you're representing a district of over 730,000 people, there's got to be some give and take. And when you look at his record, he votes with his party 95% of the time. And that's historical over a 22-year time in office. I think if you're representing a district of over 700,000 people, there needs to be some give and take with that record.
And that leads me to my next question. It's a large district, large geographically, and it's a district that overall contains more Democrats than Republicans. A lot of independents, but more Democrats than Republicans. But we have a broad spectrum of people who are fiscally conservative, socially liberal, socially moderate. So I'm just going to run down a couple of so-called hot button issues, just so the voters can understand your take on them, even if they're issues that you won't be directly voting on or directly influencing as a U.S. representative. Just want to hear your opinions of some of the issues out there. How would you vote, for instance, regarding resurrection of the assault weapons ban, so-called?
I think that's the biggest issue, is so-called.
Yep.
You know, when it comes to even the definition of what an assault weapon is, I don't even think we can agree on that right now. You know, some people will call a hammer an assault hammer. It depends on what you do with it. So I'm the type of person that I think we need to get to root causes of problems and actually get to, I'm a physical therapist, I'm in healthcare, and if I go to help fix something, I got to get to the root cause. I can't just treat symptoms. And one of the things you just said, as far as an assault weapon, what does that even mean? And I think we at least need to be able to define it, then we can move forward. But right now, there's really not a clear definition. Even when they call the AR an assault rifle, well, it's not. It's Armalite. You know, there's a lot of misconceptions out there and no clear definition. So just clearly defining it.
And are you saying that you don't have hardline opposition to gun control, that you would consider some measures? Is that what you're saying, or?
You know, there's a big difference between I fully support the U.S. Constitution as it's written. The fact is, right now, is that there's already laws on the books, and I also support law and order. So I am going to support the laws how they're written. However, I do believe in fully protecting the U.S. Constitution moving forward.
Roe versus Wade, hot button issue, abortion rights, certainly an issue among Democrats and Republicans. Do you feel that that decision should be overturned?
Again, Roe versus Wade, it's gone to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court's made the law. It's the law of the land. If that decision got overturned, then it becomes a states' rights issue, and then it goes down to your state representative or your state senator moving forward. So as a U.S. representative, I have nothing to do with that. And then going back to what I said, what I don't agree with Congressman McGovern is that he votes his conscience and he votes the way he sees fit. I take it a totally different way. I'm going to be going back and forth and listening to the voters moving forward.
So periphery issues in that area, like federal funding for Planned Parenthood, if those things were to become before the U.S. Congress, you would be in opposition to that?
For federal funding for abortion, that's already supposedly not. Federal funding doesn't go towards abortions, and that needs to be enforced. I believe that needs to be enforced.
So you wouldn't necessarily advocate for withdrawing federal funding from Planned Parenthood, period, as some have advocated.
Right, and I would not advocate for that. However, we got to look at Massachusetts and what our true needs are. You know, it's already required in the state of Massachusetts that we all have health insurance. So if we all have to have health insurance, we already have the ability to go to our doctors. So I think we need to put more responsibility on our health plans, more responsibility on our doctors to be able to provide the services that we're needing from a Planned Parenthood so that there's greater access.
Do you support the so-called Trump tax acts as passed?
I do. I've benefited from them directly. I know my opponent is going to say, you know, the top 1% got 83% of the benefits. He's going to make that point over and over again. But the fact is here in our district, over 60% of the population does not itemize their taxes, which means they get to double their tax write-off right off the bat. So it went from roughly $12,000, they're going to be able to take off that initial deduction to $24,000 that quickly. It benefits all of us. I think there's one thing though that could change. You know, everybody wants to make the top bracket. I believe they got a deduction of 2.6%. A lot of them didn't even want it. So let's take that down to 1.5%. We bring money back in, and they still get a little bit of a break.
What is a bill that you'd like to sponsor next term if given the opportunity and elected?
100%. I think that Massachusetts should be the leader in immigration. You know, immigration reform has been a political football that has gone back and forth for president after president. This is nothing new. Our congressman has been in government 22 years. He'll be the first to speak out for the need for immigration reform, but he has not offered any solutions for immigration reform. And I think historically, if you look at what President Clinton said, if you look at what President Obama said, if you listen to what President Bush has said, and President Trump, they are all saying very, very much the same needs. In 2014, President Obama begged Congress, please do something, pass a bill. They couldn't do it. The gridlock in DC is making it impossible to get anything done. I would take the lead. I think Massachusetts needs to take charge and pass a comprehensive immigration reform immediately.
So you would seek to take pieces from what all of those presidents have suggested in terms of the common ground that they have sort of woven
Exactly.
here.
And I think if everybody has an opportunity to go back and look at what that common ground is, you're going to find that that there's at least 80–90% that everybody agrees on when it comes to immigration reform.
And again, great, that leads me to my next question. We seem to be becoming more and more polarized as a country politically, unfortunately. As a congresswoman, what do you see as your role to help heal some of this division that we have?
You know, just to go down, you know, the things that I just mentioned, infrastructure. We can all agree that we need better bridges, better roads, safer infrastructure. If we focus on our opioid epidemic, we should be able to all agree that we have to do something with the opioid epidemic, with increasing poverty levels in our cities. There's so much that we can agree on that everybody has been talking about but not working towards. Again, our congressman, you can look this up. He has voted with his party 95% of the time over his tenure in Congress. There should be some back and forth, give and take. You know, back in the day, we had Ronald Reagan and Tip O'Neill, and they could fight like only brothers could fight, but at the end of the day, they still got work done. You know, you mentioned earlier how we have so many Democrats here in our state and in our district. That's who I want to speak to, our true Democrats, our JFK Democrats that ask what they can do for their country. Those are who I want to represent, because it's when you have a conservative Democrat with a moderate Republican, you can get a lot of work done. But right now we have these extremes, and our congressman is historically one of the top 5 most extreme members of the House of Representatives. And that's historically, over 22 years. That's nothing new. We need to get back to the middle, focus on what we all have in common, and we're going to be able to get a lot of work done.
So if you're elected, and let's say, for example, Republicans retain control of the House of Representatives, in terms of supporting a Speaker of the House, would you support a more moderate choice? Would you support a so-called Tea Party or Freedom Caucus type choice? Who would you like to see fill that role?
You know, I think we need a moderate choice. I honestly don't care who takes charge of the House because we still need to get work done regardless of who's in control. Who's in control is us. And I think we've lost track of that the people of the United States are in control. We need to exert our control over our Congress and make them work and hold them accountable for the work that they've done, and just as importantly or more so, the work that they haven't been able to get done.
Can you, we have a few minutes just to finish up. Can you share a story out on the campaign trail? It's a big area, geographic area. Can you maybe share with us a story, something that sticks out of somebody you ran across on the campaign trail, to maybe a story you'd like to share with us, one of your experiences out there?
There's been so many great experiences, but I think my biggest one that I hear resonates so much is, like I said, just the people being frustrated with our government and being embarrassed, quite frankly, that on a world stage, it's just embarrassing all around. You know, my opponent, he's going to come on and he's going to say that this election is about decency. He's running an election against our president. He's running a campaign that's Democrats versus Republicans. That's what I'm telling you is what's wrong, and that's what's broken about our country right now. And I hear that over and over again. I got a letter in the mail from a gentleman out in Belchertown. He's 90 years old. And I drove out there, and he wanted me to give him as many campaign signs as possible. And his younger friend was going to help him put them all around town, and his younger friend was 75 years old. Those are the people that they've seen what socialism is. They fought a war against fascism. They fought a war against socialism. They fought a war to protect our freedoms. Those are the people that I want to represent the most, and we have an opportunity right now to say enough is enough. Let's get back to work for our country, and let's be an example. Let's lead by example and make things happen positively again.
Okay. Maybe take 2 or 3 minutes to address a closing statement to the voters here in the 2nd District. So as part of my introduction that I neglected, of course, we had the 3rd District candidates on at an earlier time with Kevin Cormier hosting that. That covers the city of Fitchburg as far as our local area. Of course, the 2nd District covers the city of Leominster, among other major cities. So Mrs. Lovvorn has graciously agreed to be with us on FATV. We're going to, like I mentioned, we're going to have Representative McGovern on very shortly. Address the voters and anything else that we haven't covered that you'd like to address over the next couple minutes here.
Yeah, you know, everything I just said, we have an opportunity. What's very interesting is in Congressional District 2, we have never had an opportunity to vote in a general election for this position. Congressional District 2 was designed after the census of 2010 when the state of Massachusetts lost a congressional member. We went down from 10 representatives down to 9. So we inherited our current congressman, and there has never been an election for this position until now. A lot of the time I've spent is actually educating myself as well as other people what district you're actually in. So Leominster's in the district, but Fitchburg isn't. And then it goes out to Orange and Athol, but Gardner isn't.
Right.
And so it's a very interesting district. But when you look at the numbers, in 2010, when they made this district, we were the 13th most gerrymandered state in the United States. You know, and again, our current congressman will speak out against the ill effects of gerrymandering. Well, that's the position we've been in, and we have an opportunity right now. Like I said, we need some good, strong conservative Democrats working with good, strong, moderate Republicans. That's what I'm bringing to the table. That's what I want to go down to DC to work for us, to get things done, and to focus on what we have in common, so that we can move forward as the great country we are, instead of continuously focusing on what we have at odds with each other.
As Mrs. Lovvorn mentioned, it is a funny-shaped district to say the least. I would encourage voters out there to take a look. You're going to assume that your town may be in a certain district. It maybe isn't. There are several towns within our area that we cover here, especially if you're watching online, of which the 2nd District applies to you. Massachusetts, we have early voting. So I would encourage you to look up online what your district is, likely to be the 2nd or the 3rd if you're watching this. And if it is the 2nd District, get out there and vote for one of our candidates. They are traveling the district and working hard to get their opinions out, as Ms. Lovvorn has done here today. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
All right, that was great.
We're done?
Just